Shalom, shalom, shalom. Welcome to this Shabbat. Going to have a lot of sod level understanding and it's on the Parsha today. I've just been astounded at how the Parshas are just kind of lining up with a spiritual understanding, a deep discernment of what's going on today. We just finished Purim, whole study of Amalek, which I did last week. Amalek was defeated once. Amalek will be defeated again. And that's where we're going. But to get there, for the sons of Elohim to rise up with such an authority to push back and defeat the wicked one and all of his minions in the earth today, it's going to take something. It's going to take what in the very first verse in the Parsha today, Exodus 20, what did I say, 27:20, about beaten oil. This whole imagery, this whole hidden sod spiritual understanding that of course is full of power and beauty and light and truth, refers on the sod level to, in its hinge with the word beaten. What an interesting word. So we're gonna dive into that. But I want to say I am laser focused now. I really do have a laser focus because I will actually say, yes, I have confirmed for myself as an absolute truth seeker, the truth, and that according to our Torah, according to the word of Elohim, which is right here, these 22 letters, this whole system called the tree of life, 32 paths of wisdom, it revolves around 10 attributes of God, 10 ways in the Father pours out himself to us. He's an ultimate giver. He gives a lot, and he wants you to understand his mercy versus his judgment chastening. He'll give you strength and endurance versus he will give you sustenance. So he has a lot of ways in which he's pouring himself into his creation, into us, and it's very involved in this concept of these 10 separates, these 10 personages. All right, they're just allegorical ways of trying to explain and know our Creator Father, who is good. And then you have these 22 letters, which turn out to be the code of creation. These letters are alive, intelligent energies that actually are in complete synchronization in forming the whole body of Christ, Adam, caveman, the whole imminent visible manifestation of Elohim. I mean, this is people, and I am talking to Ephraim. I'm coming after you, Ephraim, after all these years, aka Christianity, because there's something you don't know. There's a lot you don't know. As a matter of fact, I said every day I'm going to do two things. I'm going to give a word. We're going to define a word biblically. I'm going to use and a verse. So I've kind of rephrased, this is my new pet verse, this verse from Malachi, very famous verse, Malachi 4:6, that he will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, the hearts of the children to the fathers. Nothing to do on the Shabbat. Don't even go there with me. But the point is, I rephrased it to saying, Ephraim, Christianity, you have no idea what you don't know. That's even scarier than arrogance. Arrogance is you think you know it all. But what's even scarier is you think that you even know what you don't know. And you don't know the 32 paths of wisdom because nobody ever taught you. And unless you go deep into our Torah sages and their writings, which probably 3% you will not find this level. But we need to, because this is about the reunification. So let me get back to and everything. This is why we need to, because in the millennium, everyone's going to have their own tree. Okay? So what? It's not. Come on! I don't want just a tree. If that's what he's talking about, a literal tree. That's a little better. No, this 32 paths of wisdom, this quote unquote tree of life, is absolutely theologically when it's sufficient for resurrection millennial lifestyle. So, as I said, I'm talking to Ephraim. There's a lot of things that you just don't know. And it's not necessarily your fault. And the Torah says, actually, it's the fault of the teachers. Said, woe unto the teachers. They're going to have a very harsh judgment because they should have known this level. That's what Yeshua said to Nicodemus. You're a teacher in Israel and you don't know what I'm talking about on the allegorical level? Like, how does that happen? You know? All right, let's go to this word polemic, because this is really important, because anyone who wants, you know, who is following kind of, and I hope you are trying to grasp what I'm trying to say, which is deeply researched, albeit very nuanced. It is absolutely accurate Orthodox Jewish research, and all of Christian mystics, especially in church, follow the same rule of thumb. But polemic is a word because I'm going to use the same polemics that the Bible uses, that our Torah prophets use, and the word polemic means to use warlike or hostile words to express a refutation or disputation on the principles or opinions of others. So in other words, I'm going to war on what I call now, I have 3 categories of people, because you're speechless today. I mean, I cannot believe how quickly and how organized and methodically, in a way, there is this spirit that is absolutely trying to steal Ephraim and shut Ephraim down. Both houses of Israel and America, and keep America from rising up to its birthright, which will be the greatest blessing for the nations in this last days. I mean, the war is unbelievable, but it's all happening now in this level of polemics, and they're trying to totally shut down now my ability to use biblical, clear, concise biblical words expressing biblical concepts of judgment and, you know, where the wicked are going to get their due. And I cannot use this concept of polemics, of hostile or warlike words, even though it's all over the Bible text, and most intelligent people can understand. So, but my point is, I want to use the sword of the Spirit, and that's exactly what it is, and it will do, and it will function in people's minds as it cuts asunder, you know, air from truth, soul from spirit. You see, it is an incredibly precise, you cannot get more empirical, repeatable, dependable, verifiable, supernatural system than this, in which to judge, to weigh, to discern truth from error. So I don't want anybody twisting my polemics that, oh, I'm advocating violence, or I'm, you know, oh, see, that's what they did to Trump people. This is why they're so wicked. Let me tell you a little secret. I was there. I was in DC on January 6th, and I was on the Capitol steps, and nobody except the mainstream media and their narrative buddies and that whole setup were advocating in any real sense any polemic, stirring up insurrection, or any, I mean, this is just a big total fat lie. But we know that. If you're here, you know that. But it's all right. The Father, we will fight and defeat this beast. So back to beaten. So what I want to say is why. See, there again, beaten. It's a word, has many levels, but it does imply force. It does imply exerting. So when you have this whole concept, we have of olive oil. Now, olive oil is one of the major agricultural archetypes in the Torah, and actually olive oil is known as, like, Israel's liquid gold. It's known as the liquid gold. It was their cash crop. On the Parsha level, Israel was known as having some of the best olive orchards in the world, and their oils went far and wide. Okay, even the point, it says in the writings that King David used to place guards. I mean, he would have his guard some of Israel's most choice olive groves. So, I mean, we're talking big time security measures to protect something that obviously the people valued, and it's called liquid gold. Now, why do they call it liquid gold? And why? This is so interesting, because there's 2 processes. So there's a couple processes in olive oil. But to get the olive oil that, here, you got to hold on. I have to do something really quick. Sorry. To get the olive oil that is used in the menorah temple, it's not any olive oil. It is the highest. It is literally the liquid gold. Now, let me tell you something about gold as a word. It's a word that's coded for many levels. On its highest level is we're using it here. So we're equating liquid gold, which is olive oil. But it's not just there's a certain part of the olive oil. This is what's always so nuanced about this thing. You just can't paint with a broad brush. Even olive oil has many levels of meaning and things that are going on, and we will extract this soul level. So when it is beaten, and again, it's a cause. It's beaten, not crushed, or it's bruised, not crushed. Olive oil, and this is a big scam today. You should research olive oil. Most of the stuff we get is really profane, just crushed olive oil. It's very hard to find, real, genuine. You have to search for it, and you have to pay a lot for it. But what they do is there's two different techniques to get the olive oil, the liquid gold, which they use for the anointing oil, which is only used in the temple, the menorah, and to anoint literally kings and priests. The high priest, the king, very, very sacred. But it comes from your olive. When I should say of an olive oil, you can crush it. They'd have those big millstones and they would extract the olive oil. That's the last process. What they would do is they would cut it up. I don't know how to explain it. They would cut up the olive oil, the olives, and that would release, because in the center of the olive is this literally liquid olive oil, okay, that would be released. So if you took a whole basket or a whole huge bin of olives and you chopped them, you bruise them, all right, and they release their oil, that inside secret oil. That's what they're after. Now, to extract from that, and then they would take what's left, the pulp and the body of the olive and everything, and they would crush it. They pulverize it, and that would become your everyday profane olive oil. Okay, but this again always follows an archetype. That there's always, okay, and we'll see. There's always the center. There's always something very precious, and then you have this idea of there's pulp. There's the meaty part of the flesh of any like fruit. And then you always have the skin, this outer part, which in Hebraic nomenclature many times is called the klippah, which in nuts or in a lot of foods, it's very rough and scaly. It's very hard. It can be, or in fruits it can be just like a skin. It's the covering, all right. So it comes in many different shapes, sizes, textures, and that's all kind of important. When a prophet's picking something from nature to make a spiritual allegory, he has totally thought it through on every level to relate it to the tree of life, to this archetype. This is what I'm trying to say. Everything follows an archetype. See this little dot, this meaty part inside, and then this outer layer, skin or whatever. Okay, so that's a physical fruit. But let's take this concept, all right? We've now beaten our olives, and we've extracted this incredibly pure, that's the point, pure, it's never been touched by the outside, and it isn't crushed. The other thing we have to realize, there is an analogy in here. I want to tell you something, and both sides are right, I'm sorry, as the way you can apply it accurately. Bruised doesn't refer to Yeshua. He was bruised, but not broken. He was bruised, but not crushed, all right? He gave up his life. He was definitely cut up in a sense, all right? And his soul, his spirit was released. But so is Israel. This is the point. Israel, Judah, the two houses, their whole witness in the world, they're bruised. I mean, this is the whole point. The Jews are see themselves here. They have not been crushed. They have not been annihilated, even though every demon on earth has tried to. They have not been crushed, but they have been bruised. So again, these archetypes fit, and it's perfectly legitimate. We have to get to that level of understanding. A lot of these, Judah can use these, and Ephraim can use these. It makes sense, okay? But I want to go back now to taking this archetype, because in this chapter, where are we? Chapter 20, 27. He goes on after talking about the olive oil, and that's the kind of the beaten olive oil. That's what you're supposed to use in the temple, right? Okay. Now, he goes on and talks about everything that they have to make as an archetype for the high priest, the clothing for Aaron and his sons, the sacrifices, there's so much detail. Now, I'm telling you, and I'm making my new little infomercial again. I am really seriously doing classes that have amazing graphics, charts, and will have incredible information when where to go quicker, deeper to resource on what the keys to the kingdom, these kind of allegorical, already established theological houses of understanding that you can't change. We're not supposed to change these things. We're supposed to understand them in their biblical context. I'm teaching this on a high level, on the soul level, and you should leave me. Go to my Facebook, The Elect Life. Go leave it on my website, The Elect Life. Leave it on my in the YouTube here, and get in touch and sign up for these classes. It's gonna be very exciting. This is the sealed knowledge that is. You know, this is time now for the whole world to understand this. The Jews have been keeping this. Let me tell you what. They didn't share this. You know, very high level elites got to get in on this, so to speak. Actually, but for the most part. But it's a new day. Remember, nothing stays the same. It's a new season. Seasons change. All right. So this one, 2 points now I'm going to make about how this relates to the Holy of Holies. Again, so everything follows this archetype. Remember, I showed you. And if I even had my little walnut, they use the same thing. But just hold on to that. We're not going to go there. All right, so let's just take the layout of the temple. Or actually the layout of the tabernacle. Everything always follows archetype. Now, what we're doing, what Moshe is doing, with Bezalel, who actually is one of the most initiated. This guy has such a pedigree. I think his mother was Miriam. He's directly descended. It's incredible, his lineage. All right, and it totally in the inner circle of people who would know these mysteries. This is what they're safeguarding and holding on to. Anyways, they're making a complete physical model of what's going on in a heavenly pattern. The heavenly pattern is the tree of life. People, the heavenly pattern is the tree of life. This system will tell you everything you need to know about the supernal worlds, everything that we can know, that has been revealed, that is ours and was given to us for our children and our children's children for many generations, all right? It has been so stolen and pillaged and profaned, and the nations have it, and okay? I'm all about let's take it back, let's clean it up, polish it up. This is all stuff for the temple. We need to get it ready again. And that's not necessarily in a literal way, even though there will be this, but in terms of understanding these are how to apply them to Israel needs to apply them to themselves so they can become vessels fit for use in the temple in this allegorical sense. So the Holy of Holies, you have 3 parts to it. You have here, let's just go like this, and we'll partition this part like this and this like this. So over here, let's just say, you know, it's this long, let's say this is the Holy of Holies in here, which has the Ark of the Covenant, right? And the 2 cherubim. It's wait a minute, it's a box. What am I doing? Okay. You have your cherubim. So you have your Ark, and it's got its poles and different things, okay? And then you have, this is in the very center. One thing you have to understand, I don't want to go into that. All right, so let's just keep going down here. Because I know that there's a whole thing out there of the round, that it was a tent meaning, and it's always a circle and a square. There's always relationship geometrically. So whether it in the template laid it out like this in a progression, or if you're looking at it from an aerial view and you can look at it top down and you're seeing it as concentric things, I mean, all of them are accurate. So here in the holy place, though, now this is a place that's only for the priest. So you can go for, this is for the high priest. It's the point. This guy, one guy gets in here, Holy of Holies, once a year. That's how holy that is. This is the holy place. This is for the priest where they officiate. And what did notice if you have the table of showbread, okay, where they have the 12 loaves. You have the menorah. This is the light. This is what we were talking about. Okay, the light. And then you have the incense. There's an altar of incense in the square. And actually, see, these things are so loaded with so level, because they really refer to, actually, if you looked in your Hebrew and understand the word, the three, what's known as the highest level, the level of wisdom and understanding, Keter, Chokmah, Bina, at the top. This core essence that is in everything, okay? And it's these words, Sephir, Sephar, and Sepharim, and Sephir. These are all words. They all have various. They begin with the S, the Shema. They all have a sound in it, a Fe or a Pei, okay, and they all have an R or a Tav, so a Resh. They all have, so they're all very similar, three-letter root words, and the only thing that's different is the vowel, and the vowel is telling you all sorts of information, but it is telling you where these energies, you have to understand these represent energies. This represents the nefesh soul of man. This is the light, the neshama, and this is his highest level. And then this is where God will meet man in the Holy of Holies. Which totally is up here in the separate chart. Okay, but my point being, so and then the one over here, you have the altar burnt offerings here, and you have the lever, which is the sea of brass, which is where you would wash yourself. So people would come in, and there are steps here. You would have to ascend. You would have to kind of, and then saying here. But everything in here was to go in a progression to elevate you. Okay, but this here, this Holy of Holies, this is the only place where you would have that. With that, well, let me just say this. This is why in here, this holy place is represented. It's called in the Hebraic or Zoharic nomenclature as, excuse me, Zeron Pin, okay? It's the lower seven sephirot. It is the Vav, the Yod Hey Vav Hey on the. Now I'm probably lost 90%, but I'm sorry. But I want to show people. I'm going to be relentless. This stuff relates to stuff. It's not made up, and it is tangible. It is tangible. It is as spiritually real and tangible as the pulp or some of the, on a lower level understanding. So as a man thinketh, so he is. Our thoughts are as real and potent and intelligent and capable of moving mountains, just like a bulldozer down here in physicality. Okay, so, but the point is that one other thing let me talk about olive oil that makes it more unique is it is extracted from the flower. Olives are the flower, kind of the fruit of the flower on the olive tree, whereas a lot of oils, they crush them, there's just seed, and they have no liquid gold in them. So you got to see, these things are really thought through and understanding. It's telling us something spiritually. All right. Do you have that little spark, that connection going on in the Holy of Holies, where you can, and do you have that holy anointing oil, that which really represents light, which represents the ability to see? Each one of these, the bread, which is equated to our nefesh soul life. I've been through this. This is equated to our ruach soul level, and this is equated to our neshama. Okay, this whole system, okay, is designed to be understood in how we come in progression before Adonai. And this is what the temple was all designed to do. You would go, you would, I can remember it was like the most sensory bells and whistles you could experience. It was like supposed to make you enter altered states of consciousness where you would just be so wowed and so blown away by the magnificence and the orchestration and I know that this is an accurate kind of understanding, because when I went to I went to a trip to Europe and got to see the Vatican and tour it and whatever I said. But one the guide, who was he was a very knowledgeable and very good guide, but he did make a point. He said, yeah, everything, because it's so ornate. I mean, it's so over the top, some of this stuff. You just have to, it's mind-boggling. But he said, yeah, the reason they would do that, he said, one of it is because you would want people who came into your holy place, okay, to be so bowled over, blown over by the wealth, literally, and the intricacy and the skill, workmanship, everything, that people would like almost acknowledge, wow, your God is amazing. This is all for your God. And he gave you all this abundance. See, it's a wow factor thing. This is why the temple it was a wow factor thing for the nations and for many, 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 many centuries. But like anything else, it did find its season of corruption. So now let me go back to another one that's mentioned here, the ephod. See, like I said, these archetypes are totally pictorially telling us everything we need to know about its position and its relationship in this tree of life, which is Adam Caveman, which is the whole, all the worlds, all the heavens, all the dimensions, all the entities, the high heavens, the abyss, you name it, okay? But the ephod, there's two things that people did. Obviously, it was this, I'm sure most people, the square, probably, which was arranged very mathematically with the tribes, I believe. Let me see. So it's 4. So you'd have 4. Well, it's probably done in 3s, probably. I'd have to look. Actually, I should check myself. I didn't look at enough ephods online to memorize this. It should be in 3s, but maybe it's in 4s across. All right. The point being, there's 12 tribes. Each one has their own little box, and it is important whether it's. But I can't remember. Okay, too much to remember. So, anyways, he doesn't understand is here's Aaron. He's the high priest. He is the representative. He is the symbolic, allegorical representative of the highest elevated Adam Caveman, high priest, man, anointed one on the earth to go before the throne of glory in the heavenlies and to be able to bring in offerings and to be able to meet and to receive. Now, what would he receive from Elohim? Okay, Aaron, when he wore this ephod, now, it's completely important to understand that the way they put the clothes on, the high priest, totally 100% follows this archetype. Let me say this when I did the things about the temple. So you had this is the holy place, the holy of holies. This is the court of the Gentiles. It's a place for the profane. There always is. We're always down here in physicality. But, well, here, let me do it on here. This is better. See this Adam Caveman? I call this the Yahweh man, Yod Hey Vav Hey. It really is. We're a total microcosm of the great macrocosm. And the way this is set up, it does totally follow the archetype with the clothing of the high priest. He's putting layers on, which are called veils, or they're garments, they're coverings, but what they're doing is he's cloaking himself in sephirific power, emanations, attributes. He is the representative, all right, before the Most High Creator Father. But the thing is, he's wearing this ephod on his breast, his chest. That's what's important, because that is exactly where it says he wears it on his heart, because that's what he's doing. He's the high priest. He is bringing Israel, before Yahweh Elohim. He's wearing them on his heart, and he's bringing them in remembrance before the Father, like to remember Israel. And, because there was a part where the Father wanted to actually destroy them because they were so stubborn and rebellious and just wouldn't get with the program and whatever. And Moshe intervened and interceded. And since then, Aaron took on this role of being this great intercessor to go before once a year, go before Yahweh and say, look, remember your people. Okay, maybe we've blown it this year. It hasn't been a great year, whatever. Remember on the heart. Okay, his mercy, his compassion, very strategically located because and also he wears it on because his whole role is to bring them remembrance, bring the Father remembrance of the 12 tribes, and bring back from the Father repentance or forgiveness from the Father. It's supposed to be this two-way exchange, And that's what, you get into the whole, the Passover, the Azazel, the two lamb, the one that is sacrificed and sent out into the wilderness. I mean, these things this is a concept, we're giving a portion to the other side, to the evil empire. We're giving them a portion because they have a role to play in this huge scheme of things. But meanwhile, while they're occupied, we are going to go. We are before the Father. We're in our huppah, our safe space, and we can worship in peace. And a lot of this is analogous, and the cry is today exactly the same, no different than what Moshe was told to tell Pharaoh. This is what we're supposed to tell Pharaoh, and this is eventually what Mashiach is going to come and tell Pharaoh, and finally fulfillment. But that Israel is mine, even my firstborn, and I have told you to let them come out and worship me. See, this is why it's time now. I am done with these. Oh my gosh. I gotta say this. This is my new part of my polemics, because I'm just done with, here, let me get a better, what color shall we do this? It's just, God deniers, because it is so evident. And when you get the tree of life, if you give me 5 minutes, or, give me 15 minutes to truly explain mathematically, geometrically, actually, and what's going on here. But God deniers, number one. Even worse than that, into God haters, who are not just snarly, just hissing and chomping and railing against God. There's such an anger and an unwillingness to even be reasonable. All right. And then this is why now my last group that they're really rising up, the God herders. And, it's been happening all over the world, and I apologize. I mean, I probably have not. It hasn't happened at my doorstep per se, but now it's getting ready. These God herders, where they are really, trying to totally take the rule of law out of America and put in a total dystopian, draconian narrative to wipe out all speech that would go back to Torah, the Bible, Yahweh Elohim. I mean, it's nuts, okay? So if you're in these categories, my polemics towards you are going to be quite warlike, because you are going to come down, because you are not going to make policy the laws of the land, and you're not going to change our nation from what it was founded on, the gift it was from Yahweh. We will come back. I don't know how much if he's going to bruise us or crush it, but we'll see. But this is serious. This is serious, all right? It's time. Ephraim has to rise up also with Judah, roar like a lion in this season. We do have a leg to stand on. We do have a standard that Yahweh will 100% back up if we will acknowledge him before the nations. Now, so this whole system with, like I was describing, how all these archetypes, because I want to say, I just did this whole class, keys, how numbers are keys, and how these energy bundles of numbers, like putting 7s together, 4s together, why people always see it. You're seeing the remezes, the hints, because everything I teach is on parts. But you want to know the sod level, what's really being brought together in that grouping. It's really remarkable. So everything is done on many levels. You have to create. So what I want to say, all these archetypes, Moshe, being told how to clothe Aaron and his sons, what kind of olive oil the Father wants in his temple, okay? Or any of what the sacrifices of the goats, the sheep, and the rams, so specific. I will get there why that's so specific that those animals are used and what they're referencing, okay? But it creates, look at, Einstein told us what reality is. It's time, it's space, and it's energy, right? Well, okay, it's called, it's just got little different names, but this whole idea is creating sacred space. It's sacred. our bodies, our minds, our souls, our persona is supposed to be sacred space to the Father, right? Holy, all right? It is happening in time. There's a dimension of time. You can't get around it. And if you read it's 7 days. They're cycling. They're told to do this whole enactment ritualistically with the high priest for 7 days. This 7 days, this is an unbreakable cycle that is one of the foundational archetypal guild cycles that explain so much, and how to count time and what's going on, that we have to understand. So everything is done in time, everything is done in space, and everything is done in, you see, the energy, this is souls. Remember, he crushed the fruit. The olive is the fruit of the olive tree, okay? We are the fruit. We're the souls. And you understand, in the Hebraic understanding, a soul or a flower is equated to a soul. The whole thing about why there's 5-petal roses, or I mean a 5-petal flower, why there's perfection. But it is a soul, because your body is going to get crushed. Let me tell you, until the resurrection comes around, you're going to recycle. Your physicality is going to get crushed. Okay, your soul is going to get bruised, but it will survive. And it is your soul that, as I always say, that's the soul is what Mashiach is saving and cleansing and making holy. So these archetypes, even today's Parsha, look how much you can get out in true depth and understanding. So, hey, the famine of the word is over. Come to the tree of life. This is beautiful, ancient Hebraic from Abraham, our patriarch, going all the way back to Enoch. This is the level of the Torah sages. And this is coming out now because it's time to take Torah to the nations. It's time for everyone to grasp, so that every man will be without excuse before the Father. Because you'll all get how this thing works. The judgment of God, his right hand, his left hand, the pillar of judgment and the pillar of mercy, and the middle pillar, and how he's constantly weighing us in the balance and rewarding us, blessing us for we're getting our chastening. So, okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Blessings, and definitely let's move on. Look at the classes, like, subscribe, share. I'm very excited about this. And like I said, the future is as bright as the promises of God.